Hi guys, welcome back. In this lesson we're going to look at more data. The previous lesson we looked at integer values, which are whole numbers. In this example here we're going to look at floating point numbers. In this case we use a data type called double, so it's no longer int, it's now double. Double will deal with anything to do with decimals. You give it some sort of name to hold the value, so I'll say d number 1, just like we did in the previous examples, and I'll assign it a value. I can assign it a value without a decimal if I want to, and that will really mean 2.0, but in reality I will give it an actual value there, so 12.2 is going to be held within d number 1. I'm also going to create a second variable. This will be called d number 2, and I'll alter that value to 2.2. So we now have two decimal values, two values up a decimal point in them. You can use them in the same way as you use strings, and integers as well. So I'll type in system.out.println, and then within there I can send the value straight out, so d number 1, and also if I want change that to d number 2, and that should give us some values on the screen in the compiler, which I'll jump onto and use. So we're compiling just now and it says 12.2 and 2.2, so it's taking the values with assigned to both variables, and again showing information on the screen. What we'll do now is use some mathematics, and we'll use some addition initially. So d number 1 plus d number 2, and again we'll see what the output looks like, and you should see a change in the output. As you can see here it says 14.3999 recurring, and because we're dealing with decimal points, it basically extrapolates it out, so I end up with quite a lot after the decimal point, which we're not used to in numbers. When you're looking at numbers for human beings, we're used to cutting it off, especially with money. We like to cut it off to a certain size. I'll now do a subtraction. So take the same code, do a subtraction, grab the whole thing again, stick it inside the compiler, and see what we get. And the output says 10.0. So it's taken those two numbers, 12.2 and 2.2, and basically did a deduction and realised there's only 10 left over. Beyond that we can do multiplications and divisions. So we'll start with a multiplication, using the asterisk as we know now to stand for multiplication, and then we'll use the division symbol as well and see what output looks like. And again you see it's done the maths, did the multiplication and also division. Again this division, if you look, it's got a lot of places after the decimal point, quite a lot there. What we'll do now is look at a method of clearing that up a little bit, and one way to do that is to use a new command called system.out, which we're used to, and the brand new function is called format, and we can use the format function to change the way the information looks on the screen. So what I'll do first is I'll put in a string, and it's within the string, this is where we actually format the information. You tend to put a percentage sign in. You can then specify how many things after the decimal point, how many places. I'm going to say 2, and f means floating point value. So we know the doubles are floating point values. It's simply saying format this using this format, so it's 2 places after the decimal point. You then place a comma in, and then whichever variable you use here, it will format that value. Now I'm going to make a brand new variable called d numbers, which I've not created yet. I'll create it now. Double d numbers equals, and what I think I'll do is I'll take the addition, and that's what d numbers are equal just now. So that's it said format. There's the different commands. Let's see what happens. Paste it in, looking for any errors. Maybe I've made a typing error, which I didn't look like I have. And now it says 14.40. Now if you look at the previous example, it said 14.3999 when recurring, but now if you use this format command, this new thing is then taking anything after the decimal point, 52 places after the decimal point, because I specified a 2, and it's also round up to the nearest position. So 3.9999 wasn't working, so it's changed it to 40. If I was to change this number here, this number 2, to say a 3, and then compile it again, it produces 14.400. So again, it's taken these values here and rounding them up. So it's not too difficult to do that point. On the left hand side, it says 14. What we can do is we can specify some spaces to the left of the decimal point. How many do you want? Imagine we want 6. And I'll hit compile. You now found that the output there doesn't change too much, but if we had a different size number, we'd have that output change. And what we'll do is we'll use the version 5 to see what happens. So 5.545454, that was the division, so we'll grab that one. And I'll change it over here, so it's no longer doing an addition. See what we get. And there you go, you can see there's a sort of gap appearing here now to the left hand side. Let's take that out and look again, compile, and it pushes close to the left again. So it's all about formatting the output, making it look slightly differently. Let's now try it with 2 decimal points, see what we get. Now it says 5.55, so again it's rounding up, it's cutting these off and rounding them up.